Well, time is running out as we get closer to a looming strike by the United Automakers. The union is giving the big three automakers until tomorrow night when their contract expires to reach a deal. The Michigan-based Anderson Economic Group has said that a strike by the UAW could actually cost car makers, suppliers, and workers over $5 billion. UAW President Shawn Fain was on Good Morning America today with the latest in the negotiations. Take a listen.
And we've been very upfront from the beginning with the companies that, we're not picking a target. The target is the big three. And we expect, September 14th is a deadline. We expect to have agreements with all three companies by that date. The workers deserve that. And if they do not have an agreement by that date, then there will be action.
Well, we want to talk more about the possible strike here. Let's bring in ABC's Elizabeth Schulze. Elizabeth, good to see you. We just heard from the UAW president. He says that the focus is it's on the big three, not on a specific target, despite the rumors of a targeted strike. So what can we expect if a deal is not reached by midnight Thursday?
Is no deal between the big three automakers, and they're each talking to the UAW, and it's 146,000 workers that the United Auto Workers Union represents. If there's no deal, there will be a strike. Now, we do not know exactly what that strike could look like. In the past, there have been strikes at some specific facilities. In fact, they have considered targeting facilities that would kind of cripple production and have that effect without actually doing a nationwide strike. We don't know if that could happen. We don't know if there could still be an agreement with one of those automakers, and perhaps then the strike is against just one or two of the others. But at the end of the day, I think it's worth remembering here what is at stake. What the UAW is asking for is a significant pay raise. They want their contract, their four-year contract, to go up about 40% over 4 years. That is not close to what any of the automakers have gone back in their counter proposals so far. They've offered closer to 10–12%. We also know that the UAW is asking for a return to traditional pensions. They want to see cost of living adjustments in keeping with inflation. So there have been conversations, and listening to Shawn Fain, the UAW president, on Good Morning America, those conversations appear to have been a little bit more productive in recent days, but at the end of the day, still far apart as far as announcing an actual deal. And as you mentioned, the deadline here is tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. After that, the strike could go into effect.
And Elizabeth, you've been at the White House. We've heard President Biden talk about this. He even talked about this last week. He said that he's not worried about the strike. But at this point, we're getting closer and closer to that deadline. So is the White House still confident that there will be a deal?
Well, and Faith, I just pressed the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors on this, saying, is this something that the White House is worried about? Plus, is the White House going to support these workers going on strike? We heard President Biden say he's not worried, and Jared Bernstein, the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, told me that they're looking at this very closely, they're monitoring, and that overall President Biden supports the right to collective bargaining. They continue to say here at the White House that this is the most pro-union president in history. But notably, he did stop short of saying that they would endorse a strike. They're still saying that they hope there is an agreement here, that they're monitoring, that they have people with the White House who are in touch with the union, and that the president had a conversation recently, and he also had a recent conversation with the leaders of those big three automakers, but trying to walk a really fine line here, Faith, as far as saying we support unions, we support their right to get a fair contract, to get better wages, but not so far as to say this strike should go forward and potentially have consequences for the broader economy and for more Americans, too.
I mean, obviously, there are a lot of people who are hoping that, a strike doesn't happen, because we've seen some estimates right now saying that it could cost the industry $5 billion if there were to be a strike. So can you break down the economic impact and how it could affect people looking to buy a car or even sell a car?
Right, and much of this does depend on what kind of format the strike takes, if it's targeted and it looks at just a couple of specific facilities, or if it is broader. But generally, what economists are saying is that the longer it goes on, the bigger the economic impact would be. So, that's the case, because if you think about it, if production slows down, at some point that would mean there are fewer cars in lots, fewer cars in dealers, and that would eventually then send prices higher. So if you're trying to buy a car, if this strike does go on over time, if there's no resolution, and there is some sort of slowing down of production, that could mean that you could be paying a higher price. Generally, the estimates range, but $5 billion could be the impact, and that's because we could see that trickle through the local economy in Michigan. Of course, that would have impacts on jobs, again, if this does go on over time, Faith.
And just a lot to think about here as the clock continues to tick. Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.